Oh God. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think audio went on mute. No problem. Let me introduce. So
Yeah.
today our session, to 2 to 3:30 session and day 4 and third session, public cloud demonstration, going to take over by Prajot Saran and Arun Pandey. Arun Pandey, he has completed his PGPA in marketing and IT in 2006, BTech in 2004. He has overall 15 years of experience in cloud and IT services, and at Microsoft as industry expert till from 2009 on 19 onwards. Regarding Prajot Saran, he has done an MBA in project management from IIM Calcutta, and overall he has 20 years of experience. And at Microsoft, he has completed more than 14 years. With this brief introduction, I would like to ask Prajot and Arun to take over the session. Arun, you are able to share your screen now?
Yeah, sir. Sir, this is Prajwal.
No,
Thank you
I'm
so
not,
much.
I'm not getting the share screen option.
Yeah,
Are you?
because at a time, I don't think so. Only one person can share a screen at a time. Because
Sure.
the moment I will make you as a presenter, Prajot could not able to share.
Yeah, right. So this is Prajot, and I will start with the sharing of my screen. So I clicked on share. Let me know once it is visible.
Yes. Yeah,
Visible?
we are able to see your desktop.
Great, great. So really thankful, Raja sir, for giving us this opportunity to talk to every attendees over here on Azure. Uh, yeah, thanks for the introduction to also. We would like to now go a little more deeper into what Microsoft Azure brings uh, from the perspective of both an IaaS, PaaS, as well as an SaaS kind of a services. Please let me know if I'm going a little faster, or if you have any questions. Please, attendees request you to please raise those hands and we will address that. Any questions, please put it across in the question and answers panel. At the same time, if there is anything which you want to reiterate, or all of us to be reiterated, we'll do so. So what plan I have for the entire 1.5 hours is basically to start with a session talking about a quick overview. We are aware that yesterday you had a full day session on the services that has been offered through Azure. We talked about IoT. We talked about machine learning. We talked about cognitive services. We talked about big data. So we talked about multiple components that come along. It goes across the cloud. However, what we intend to cover today is more time on the demonstration of that. So I have 10 minutes presentation, which I will do a quick overview of what I'm going to cover in today's session, and then after that transition to a console, where I'll go through the console and show you how the UI looks like and what are the options that is available from both from an IaaS and PaaS services. We will cover that. We'll talk about additional services that an education institution is using. So we all three presenters over here are from an education background. So what happens is basically we have some experience from an education institution perspective, what is most of the institutions ask for. So we'll cover specific topic around what is a service that is being used in education scenario. So for that, I have requested Rashmit to be here to talk about that. And we'll also walk, while we are covering the topics of the IaaS and the PaaS and the SaaS kind of environment, but we would also like to talk about how the billing happens, because that is also a very important aspect of the Azure any cloud services. So we'll talk about what kind of VMs comes, what kind of services comes, what are the thresholds values, what are the throughputs that you can expect, what are the components on the services side that is available for you to actually work on, what comes free, what is chargeable. So some give you a entire perspective, right from how you configure, how you deploy, how you monitor, how you manage, but also to having at the same time when I'm deploying anything, it should be visible for others also to understand, okay, if I spin off a VM which is a GPU enabled VM, then what is a tentative cost that I may incur at the end of the month? So that is something which we have, keeping that thing in mind, we have set up this particular 1.5 hours. Please feel free to interrupt and ask questions and be interactive on this session. That's a humble request. Coming to an overview, as I mentioned, for first 10 minutes, I'll just cover a quick overview of the slides and then move on to strictly demo. Okay. Now, cloud is not new to Microsoft. Cloud is something when we actually started with a journey in cloud with Hotmail, and with Hotmail as an email solution that went out, and it was nothing but a cloud-based solution. So we are very old from the perspective of managing and hosting services on the cloud, and people across the globe actually access those services. This is a slide which actually talks about our kind of an interactions that we have, or pinpoints on the information that is being captured via various interaction with various end users, end consumers, apart from enterprise scenarios. So we talk about Office 365, we talk about search engine like Bing, we talk about Maxer.com, the Skype, which is nothing but now also known as Teams, then Outlook.com. So how many visitors that we get and every month. So this is a cloud kind of an environment that we have been doing in more than a decade, starting with in Hotmail.com. These are the various data centers, though it's the picture what I showed to you are basically this is how our data centers are being built, and they are data centers which going as long as 21 football grounds, which is where all the servers are being located. All those cooling aspects have been being taken care of. Recently we did a research, and we did deploy our entire data center, a tunnel of data center into the sea, under the sea, and to get them, and we got a very favorable output from the deployments under the sea as well, where we were able to consume, and being an environment friendly environment, we were able to consume and be able to save the energy from the perspective of the cooling of the various other facilities, since it was running inside the sea as well. So current will be able to generate the electricity part, as well as the cooling was even taken care of. So we deploy multiple of such data centers. We have the maximum presence of our data centers across the world. We have our own fiber optic cables deployed. So Microsoft owns and does not depend on any service provider. Microsoft has deployed its own fiber network inside under the sea across the country, so across the world. So it is like the fiber network we have deployed these servers, these data centers. We have 3 data centers in India which are impaneled by Ministry of IT, and these 3 data centers reside in Mumbai, Pune, and Chennai. We are rapidly increasing the capacity of the server. So if I talk about an average per se, there are thousands of servers comes in a single day put into the data centers. So we are continuously improving and continuously deploying, continuously expanding our entire network per se into the environment. From an education perspective, if you talk about specifically in India, we are the ones who have peered knowledge, national knowledge network. So we have a direct peering, where our data centers are directly peered with NKN for a faster connectivity from an education scenario. So all institutions who has NKN can also get the benefits of getting directly hooked onto our data center. So this is a kind of an overview on that front. Moving ahead on the next slide. These are the various cloud services that we offer. We talk about private cloud. So we have a solution on private cloud as well. We talked about Windows servers, and we talk of a system center as a solution which can reside on premises. Apart from that, we offer public cloud services. When I say public cloud, it is divided into SaaS, IaaS, and PaaS. SaaS is where we get you Office 365. If you are aware, in the education scenario, we offer Office 365 academic services to the institutions. So we have academic licenses for education institutions. So Microsoft 365 is one of them. We have, when you talk about IaaS, definitely IaaS is all the virtual machines that you can actually run on that. And the third is basically the PaaS services where you do not have to manage the underlying hardware. If you want to say run a database, I do not have to install an operating system, install that particular database on that, configure that and everything up, doing a patching and all that is something which you don't have to do. It is Microsoft who takes care of the entire underlying layer. You get as a service. So this is a PaaS, platform as a service, also we offer. Another niche capability that we bring into to all the people and the participants here specifically is that we also have a private to public cloud in a hybrid environment also. So today you are running a deployed private cloud in your own data center. You have Azure, which is running on the cloud as a public cloud. I can have interlink between these two as well. In case of a bursting capability, if it needs to be bursted to the cloud, if the loads happen, I can burst this onto the cloud as well. So we offer that kind of a service also with a private and a public cloud. We also name it specifically as hybrid cloud scenarios. Okay. Now, these are various layers, which when you talked about bursting a cloud, when you talked about services that we offer, down below you can see all the SQL servers, Cognos DB, you talk about MySQL, you talk about, so these are the data layer, the storage resides where you have blob storages, we have tables, we have caching, we have queues, and which provide you information through SQL Insights and the SQL databases that reside. On top of that, we have service layer, which we offer, which is media services, CDN, cloud services like websites, web worker roles, virtual machines. On the integration side, we talked about the traffic manager, the virtual network, the load balancers. So you deploy a virtual machine and you want to, make it a load balancer kind of environment. So that the hits that is coming onto the servers is load balanced together. So the way we do on our on-premises scenarios, that can also be replicated onto the cloud scenario. That I would say it's so easy it is to create that, and you can take a remote, and it could be an operating system, which could be a Windows, could be non-Windows as well. So heterogeneous capability that we bring in. Then on the client layer, we have there could be office products, productivity suites that reside on the client layer, which access those services running on the cloud data center. Plus, it could be accessed from any of the form factors. Could be a PC, a mobile, a tablet, or a browser. It could be a gaming console, or could be through an on-premises kind of an hybrid scenarios as well. These are various scenarios, various components that we actually layer it into our data center. When we talk about Windows Azure specifically, or an Azure specifically, this is where it's a fully managed experience. Where we offer you the services, so you can choose the nine kind of fabrics that you want to build on top of that. When you talk about Azure Compute, so there are three major components. One is the cloud services, the other one is the virtual machines, and there are PaaS services, which are nothing but using our website or web worker roles. Okay. Now, these are the various how I can make an application highly available, or I want to make it fully redundant in that, or I want to keep a copy of that. I want to do a DR of a virtual machine. So I have the capabilities to actually build in my cloud. So maybe I deploy a virtual machine which is on east part of India, and can have a backup, or mine of a DR being a replication that is putting across all the south part of India. So I can configure, or if I want to make it global. So if I want to keep by default, whatever we create, we keep 3 copies of that, so that's 3 copies of whatever instance you are running, we keep a copy of that. In case you want 6 copies of that also, we can do that. You can put it onto anywhere in the world. So you can have maybe a major deployment happening on India region, but tomorrow you want to have a replica of that, something which is running on side the environment. Also maybe in US or Europe, you can have that kind of environment as well. So we offer some of the services also as a service. So these are the virtual machines. You can have virtual machines which can be pre-configured, custom VHDs, or it could be as a service. So you can get a operating system which is available in the marketplace of Azure, and from that you can go ahead and run that particular service. Or you can have an application which is maybe a Cosmos DB application machine. So that in that case, you will get a machine which will have that Cosmos DB already installed on that as a service. So there are various things which we can actually choose from. So these are some of the OS images that we got. So it is not only Windows environment, it could be on CentOS, Ubuntu, Red Hat is something which you can do. With this, setting up the virtual machine, with this, let us go into my demo environment and talk about how these services look like. Okay. So here we are. This is my login. So I have logged in to portal.azure.com. As you have seen multiple sessions, the multiple sessions talked about you going into a portal.azure.com, and various sessions talked about, and then the demonstration that happened from this particular console. This is an Azure portal which requires you to have a subscription associated with you. So you can even yourself go ahead and create a subscription and with your IDs, and you can actually access those services. So I get various options starting from the home page where we are in. I can create a resource. I can have multiple resources. When I say a resource, is nothing but grouping of services together. So maybe I want to create a resource which is for a billing information, who will do a billing, or want to create an information for ERP kind of environment. So I can create a resource. I can run that resource in a silo environment. So I can have multiple resources in a similar way, depending on the applications that I want to launch it for. I can leverage those services from that particular resources. We have dashboard view. So there are resource groups which you can see. You can see all the resources that I have deployed in my environment. I can see the certain app services that is there. I can create an app services which could be a Node.js, or could be PHP, or could be Python. I can create virtual machines, a classical mode of that. On dynamic virtual machines, I can go ahead and create. I can have databases. So I can have PostgreSQL, I can have SQL databases, Microsoft SQL databases also being created through that. I have cloud services, so various cloud services. Plus here is where I will be able to see my subscriptions. The first time that I will actually enable portal.azure.com, I need to have services being created. And that is where I have created my own subscription. So it will appear there. Active subscription will appear in the subscription section. You also get an Azure Active Directory. So if any of you who are using Office 365, for example, all that users, institutions, Active Directory, by default, they get Azure Active Directory also. So all the identities are getting created into Azure Active Directory. So you get Azure Active Directory access. You have an option to monitor. So monitor the applications which are running. You have an entire Azure infrastructure that is running in your various resource groups. You have a security center which can guide you on the security aspects, whether some security, because security is something which we feel is also the responsibility of an end user who is actually creating that VM or creating that services on the resource group. So it is very, very important for you to also understand from the security aspect, if there's any loophole, if there's any information which is missing should be considered, is something Security Center will also help. There's a help and support. So in case you need support cases to be opened, and you are stuck at some places where maybe the VM is not starting, or maybe some issues, maybe a minor or a major issue. From that perspective, you can open up a support ticket also. It's a 24/7 support ticket is also, we can go ahead and create that. You have advisor. A very good part about advisor is it actually advises you from the perspective of how you can optimize. So it gives you options on advising you on the current infrastructure. So if there's anything missing, they think there could be a loophole or a vulnerability, or could be how we can optimize, is something which advisor will also benefit out of that. Then you have cost and billing management. I would definitely like to know how other things are being utilized. Are there any cost that I need to incur less, or probably I need to optimize it? What is a predictive cost that will be coming in forward, is something which cost and billing will also help you to know. I will encourage all the participants to log into portal.azure.com, get a subscription up and running, and so that you can go ahead and start using this particular tool. as simple as creating a virtual machine, which I will show you in a short while from now. Now, on the home page, I get an option to create a resource, virtual machines, app services. I want maybe and web app services, where I want to deploy my code, which I have created. I created a code on Python, and I want, or maybe PHP or Java Node.js. I created a code and I want to deploy it onto that code onto that particular as a service, so that it automatically takes care of any elasticity or expanding or reduction on that. So I can use app services for that perspective. So I can create, I can view, I can have storage accounts. So storage accounts are nothing but accounts which is specified. So when I talk in the backend, there are definitely these are all basically automated hardware infrastructure which is deployed. When I talked about 21 kind of a football ground kind of a data center, that is nothing but there are all the servers which is being deployed. Now I need to, when you go ahead and create a subscription, it is tied to you or an institute. An institute gets a creative subscription. It is tied to that particular institute from perspective where they can actually log in and can access those resources. Now that resource is not at all shareable with other institute as well. It's a dedicated kind of an resource, and to identify, which particular resource belongs to which particular accounts is something which we create an accounts to map it. So here we talk about storage accounts. So storage accounts is also an account which has an APIs which I can call. So maybe I'm creating an application, I want to call an API and I want to leverage that API for storing of some content on that. So I can go ahead and create, I need to create first of all the storage account which can identify that which storage to which particular user belongs to. So storage accounts is what we have. We have databases. In this scenario, I'm talking about Azure SQL databases. So there are two kind of databases that we can hold. Like, you can actually create you can have a license. You have a SQL Server data center or SQL Server enterprise version, and that with an software assurance. Then you can go ahead and deploy a SQL Server, deploy a VM, and on that you can deploy this particular licensed software onto that with software assurance. The other option is, in spite of you buying those licenses separately and keeping it onto the environment, you can actually go ahead and use SQL database as a service. So this applications that is existing on a SQL, you can leverage that, which has a predefined, pre-deployed kind of a SQL servers. So similarly, we have other databases with PostgreSQL, with Cosmos DB. Then there are Kubernetes services. So Azure Kubernetes services, if you want to use Kubernetes services, you can leverage that Kubernetes services. I'm pretty sure we have covered this in the earlier sections, earlier demonstrations as well. Then there are function lab. There are other services too. So there are other services that we offer for you to get up and running with the Microsoft Azure. Now, if I go back to my environment, so if I go and click onto home, and I can want to show you how easy it is to create a virtual machine, as simple as that, and we can move a little more advanced as we move further. To begin with, say I clicked on virtual machines. So I get an option where I can add. So there are two ways by which I can do. I can have my custom VHD. So in the virtual environment, in what we understand from a disk perspective, which will be associated with Azure, is the VHD.VHD or VHDX format. So you have that ready. If you have a VM which is customized with your own applications and configured, I can have that particular VHD being put onto my Azure. So there are two ways which we can do. If you have a large amount of data, maybe it is 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte of data, or maybe 1 terabyte, let's for example 1 terabyte data which has to go onto an Azure, and those are nothing but their storage, there are VHDs onto it. You can easily get our services where you can ship those VHDs or maybe hard disk to Microsoft data center, and we will be able to, under your subscription, we will be able to host that particular services, the storage services, onto the environment. And that will be a easy transfer from that perspective. The other way around is you can use an AZ copy. a method. It is nothing but a PowerShell commandlets by which you can actually easy copy. You can actually copy those content which is residing on your data center onto the virtual machine, which you'll be going to ahead and creating onto the cloud. So that's a quick way. Basically I can if I have a lot of services that I'm using, right now you can see there's no virtual machines to display in this case, but in case you have a lot of virtual machines, I can easily identify by the name. I can define the various resource groups. These are resource groups which I have created earlier, so it shows that I can specify all types virtual machines, or it could be a classic virtual machines that I have. I can define on locations where I have deployed. So these are the various locations my virtual machines are created, can be created. So Asia, Asia Pacific, Australia, Brazil. These are various data centers that where I have my all the presence. So India, Japan East. So these are various locations where the you can see the West India is also here. So South India is here. So basically these are various locations by which you can actually select. So you can do based on your locations that you can choose that you can filter out that particular virtual machine. The other way around, which we also suggest, when you talk about large number of virtual machines and you want to say, for example, you want to do a billing of that particular virtual machine, you need to understand that how much of bill that is happening on that particular virtual machine. We also prefer or recommend that you go ahead and do the tagging of that. So tag along with a particular resource is really helps you to identify, okay, this is a tag related to a particular virtual machine, and you will be able to see only that set of machines in there, and you can take a billing of that also. So it's a tagging really helps you to segregate between the large number of environment to a specific environment where you need to find the information about. Okay, so I can have reservations also. So before I go ahead and add and create a virtual machine, I can have reservations also. I can edit the columns, I can refresh, I can try a preview, I can stop a virtual machine, assign a tag to a virtual machine or the resources, and there are various other services. So if I click on virtual machine, if I click on the portal's virtual machine, I will be able to create a virtual machine as well. So by default, I'm creating a virtual machine. Okay, when I I clicked on add a virtual machine, I have an option again if there's any virtual machine that already exists. So the entire UI turns into two interfaces where I can, if I want to set up an RI, there are reservations to it. I can purchase an RI, I can attach an RI to it, as well as I can add multiple of them. So these are the various steps that I need to do, right from basics to disk, to networking, to management, advanced features, tagging, and review and create. These are the quick steps that we need to do on which I will be able to create a virtual machine. When I'm at the virtual machine basics, I could see there is a subscription enabled. So I have only one subscription. So if you in scenarios, in the larger scenarios in your environment, in your institute, for example, there are various services that you are hosting on. Yeah, is there any question? Okay. So when I talk about larger institutions, larger deployments, what happens is there could be multiple subscriptions that you may have. Now that one subscription may be dedicated to a particular project one, different subscription which will be for project two, and similarly and so on. So this is a particular subscription. All the subscriptions that you will be able to see, will be able to see all the subscriptions in a single tenant's environment. I can create a resource group. So I can choose a resource group, or I can create a new resource group. If I say create a new resource group, for example, I just have to give the name of the resource group so that it becomes a container, or basically a block, which will host all these services in that particular block. So that's where the resource group name comes into. So I will say, I'll give a name as InflubeNet as a basically a resource group. I click on OK. So it has nothing but created a boundary line under which subscription, in this subscription, under this boundary line, what are the kind of applications or services that will be used from Azure will reside. Okay. Then what I will do is I'll put the virtual name, machine name. So I give a machine name as InflubeNet demo. Okay. Okay. Implement. Let's state as implement. Now, once I'm clicked on implement as a virtual machine. So you must have seen the way I was putting it was trying to add dash and all that. It actually gave me information that it recommends that this is not you supposed to actually do it. This is how you should be doing it. So that's where I have created an implement. And then now the second thing which I need to choose is where you want to deploy this particular application. Whether you want to do it on East US or US scenarios, Central US, I can actually go ahead and choose East Asia, Canada, Norway, East, others, West India, Japan, Korea, West India, South. So I can see India regions as well. So I say, for example, I want to deploy on the West India location. So I click on West India. The moment I clicked on West India, so that is where the virtual machine that I'm going to create will reside. The services that I'm going to use will reside. And I can have an infrastructure whether I want to have an availability zone, or I can, right now the availability zone does not exist. So I can select availability sets. So if there's an availability set, so I can choose an availability set in here. Or I can say, okay, I do not want any redundancy. So in case one of the rack where the machines are residing, it fails, I'm okay with that, so you can, though I will create three images of this, three backup copies of that. So this is an option which you have to specify in no infrastructure or availability set kind of a scenario. Availability sets, if you have already been created, it will appear over here, or you can say click on new. I can create new availability because I want redundancy to be created on that. So I say, okay, availability set, implement. I say, okay. So what I've done is I've created an availability set over here where I will be identifying that this particular virtual machine which I'm going to create will be in availability set scenario and will be available in multiple instances, available on the multiple racks. Now image, I can select an image. So that's a laundry list. As you will be able to see that I'm talking Ubuntu and the version of Ubuntu, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, when Ubuntu's Oracle Linux machine, or Debian, or CentOS, SUSE Linux. I can choose any of them, or I can go to Windows Server 2019, or Windows Server 2012 R2, or Windows 10. So these are the various operating systems that I can choose. So let us go ahead and say, for example, I want to set up Windows 19 data center generation 1. Once I clicked on that Windows Server, then I get an option. So options of choosing the what is a kind of a VM size I want to go ahead and choose for. So I'm going to deploy Windows Server 2019 data center. I can choose the version, or here I have Azure Spot instances also. So in case this is a Spot instances available, I can have it at a much cheaper price. So I can choose a basically a Spot instance of Azure. In this case, let us go with a traditional way of saying that no, I do not want a Spot instance in this moment. I will be going with a default view, which is no Azure Spot instances. Now, when I click on the size, I get the various options, whether I should go with a 4 vCPU or 16 GB RAM, and I can see various sizes too. So these are the various sizes. D series, if you want a bursting VMs, I can select a B series, or I can see A series, F series. So there are various series which we will walk you through. My colleague will walk you through on those various parameters and what they do. So let us say I selected this particular. I'm looking for a vCPU, so maybe I can select that, which is D2S V3 version, which are 2 vCPU and 8 GB of RAM. And it also gives you the kind of cost it will incur every month. So it's coming out to 5,900 rupees per month that will be charged for creating this particular image on. Then I go ahead and create a user. So I say root implement and the password. Okay. I have to confirm the password. So you need to remember that. Good part about is in case by worst case scenarios you forget about it, then there's a team who can open up a support case and they will try to get some help there. But really advise not to go to that particular level. Always keep a backup. Always keep this noted as what is the username and password you have set it for every virtual machine that going to create. Now in this case, you can choose how do you want to, what are the open ports you want to have a public ports being opened, you want all, or you do not want that to be publicly opened available slides. If you want a virtual machine you're using for testing and you want that virtual machine to be in the private network itself, so that the machines can talk to each other but are not exposed to the outside world. So I can choose that public inbound or allow selected ports. Let us say I said that 3389 is an RDP port. I said, okay, this is what will be allowing that. Or there are other ports, like if in an SSH from an Linux perspective, if I want that, I will put SSH. I can push HTTPS or HTTP. These are various ports I can also open for that particular application or application which I'm going to deploy on this virtual machine. Licensing, you say up to 49% with licensing, you already own Azure Hybrid Benefit. So, there's an extra savings that will have if I'm deploying a Windows server for in this example. I already have a license for that. I'll be saving cost in that using a hybrid benefit. Would you like to use an existing Windows? No, and all that. And since I do not have, I want to show you how you can create a virtual machine with an predefined Windows server onto it. So, so I was able to create a user by the name of root infibnet. Okay, and I created given the password to it. Now I'm coming to the next section, which is talking about disks. So I can choose the premium disk, I can choose standard disk or standard SSD. So these are various kind of, every factors which I will choose will also have the pricing attached to it. So if I'm going to have a premium SSD, definitely there's a charge for that. Standard SSD will have a lesser charge as compared to standard HDD also. And it also depends, it purely depends on the kind of workload. If you think there are a lot of IOPS or an application which I'm going to deploy, maybe an admission based application, and that application will have a higher IOPS. In that case, you will go ahead and go with a premium SSD. Let us go with a standard SSD in this case. Okay, and it gives you the option of VMSI supports premium disks. We recommend premium SSD for high ops. So your virtual machine will premium SSD disqualify for the 9% connectivity SLA. So that's a recommendation that I'm getting it, that you should go with the premium SSD. Now encryption type, where you want encryption at rest with a platform managed key or encryption rest with customer managed key. So you have an option to define your own encryption keys associated with this particular virtual machine. I go with a default manner. You want to create a LUN, so you can also put additional disks and attach that additional disk as we do in a private private cloud scenarios. So the same kind of capabilities you can bring in. You can attach an existing disk, you can create additional disk onto it, and you can actually have a data disk associated with it. So that the storage related to this particular disk also resides, or you can attach additional storage. Okay, now I move on from the disks, from basic to disk. I leave it as blank. Move on to the next as networking, where I can define the VNet. So by default, since I created a InfibNet kind of a resource group, which has automatically taken up the name of InfibNet and hardened VNet. I can define the subnets. What is a public IP, that I can define the public IP as well. So if you don't want a public IP to be associated with this virtual machine, I can ignore that. I want to put this NIC into a security group. So it is NSG. We call it, it's a common terminology as NSG is a National Security Network Security Group. So I want an advanced security group, or I want a basic group is something I can define. So when I click on advanced, it gives me some additional parameters which I can put it onto this particular NSG. It's nothing but additional security layer on top of my virtual machine that I'm going to create. And then I can, what are the ports which I want to get it open? So I have an option. Since security is in your hand, when you are creating these virtual images, you have, it's the security, the options we provide you, all the options we are providing it to you on the portal. It is you as a owner has to define what kind of how this particular virtual machine will be accessed across. So that's where you can choose a public or a selected ports. If you want selected ports, you can select the similar view where you can SSH, HTTP, HTTPS. You can actually go ahead and choose that. Then if you want a load balancing, you can actually place the virtual machine behind existing load balancer solution. If you already have a load balancer and you want to make it behind, so maybe this is an application, web application, which will be hosting it across. It will .NET. In this case, since I'm deploying a Windows Server 2019, I install an IIS on that virtual machine, and I want this to be part of behind the load balancer scenario, so I can have an option to do that. So I can, in this, while I'm configuring it, I can define an Azure load balancer also, so that he can take care of load balancing the entire load, or that is hits, number of hits that will be coming onto this particular VM. Then I go into the next management section. That's where you can enable by default. What are the security options available from an Azure Security Center perspective. I can have some enable diagnostics onto it. Do I want an OS guest diagnostics? Do I want to have a boot diagnostics enable? System assign manage identity. You want to enable that system assign manage identity on that particular machine. So the identity will be spoofed. You have auto shutdown. If you want to shut down this, that from morning till evening, this particular virtual machine, Windows Server 2019, will run, and then it has to be shut down, and then again it has to open up in the morning at 6 a.m. So that you can actually enable auto shutdown. Or you want that, you can define what are the time zones on which, and email notification could be said. You want a notification to be sent on to your email or a group email where this will be shut down. So that is also possible. Then you want to enable a backup or not. So if you want to enable a backup, then in which resource vault you will actually service role or which backup policy you will be actually putting it across. You can define that in terms of IIS. These are the settings which you do not have to do when you are going with the PaaS services. That's the difference between a PaaS and an IIS based solution. Here, every questions are being asked respect to this particular virtual machine, how it will behave when I'm deploying it onto the cloud. And then it's asking me for guest OS updates. I do not have to do this in case I'm running it as a PaaS, but since I'm using an IIS, so I can define OS orchestrated patching. Patches will be installed by OS or manually patching. So install packages yourself or through a different patching solution. So this is some orchestration possibilities are present. Or you can have an Azure patching preview. Patches will be installed by Azure itself. So this is option which is coming up, which is in private preview right now. So so after that, you can go ahead and move on to the next section, which will definitely, once the virtual machine management has been done, is there any extensions I need to add? Any custom data I need to be put in across on this particular machine? I need to assign a particular host. If I have had dedicated host, so I have gone for a dedicated host. Do you want this to be a dedicated host on the, so I can define the host group name and the proximity of the placement group and the VM generation. So Gen 1 or Gen 2 kind of a VM, which will give me more Gen 2 supports, which is like UEFI basic boot architecture, which increase the memory and OS disk size limits. So these are, if you want a generation 1 or generation 2, you can actually go ahead and do that. And then you can go ahead and define the tags. Say there is specific tags you want to put across. So I can say this is my web application, and I give it a case as 1, and I want to make it a part of the resource group. So I can actually go ahead and tag this. I click on review, and in this case it will give me all the screenshots of what I have selected, under which subscription it is being created, and it will be, the virtual machine will be in FlipNet. It will occur on West India. It is a Windows Server 2019 data center generation 1. What is the size of the VM? What is the username that I'm going to use? and the public ports will be open. What are disks I've chosen, networking what I've chosen, management whether it's on and off, anything advanced, or I have set up a tags and I can go ahead and create it. So that's a quick overview on how you can go ahead and create these virtual machines through that. I have more demos to follow. In the interest of time, I will actually, while the deployment is in progress, it will take some time. I will hand over this to Arun to take the discussion further. Arun, it's over to you.
I will make him as a presenter. 1 second.
Yeah.
So sorry, I was not able to unmute myself. But Raja, actually, the next stuff is the Azure Lab Services, which Rashmit is going to present. Then I'll come to the Azure Activator part. If you can make
Okay, now I need to make a presenter.
yeah, Rashmit as a presenter, that will be great.
Let me make a presenter, right?
He's also on mute, so you need to first unmute him, then only.
Thank you, Raja. I can unmute now. Okay.
Yes.
So I will share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see it. Is my screen visible?
Yes, please proceed. Please.
Okay. So thank you, Prajot and Arun for this. So like Prajot was telling, he actually did take you through all the process and how you create a virtual machine. I just wanted to highlight few things about the portal before going on to the lab part. While you can have all the services from here and you can go one by one to each of the services, you can also search any service that you need over here. For example, I need to go to a SQL database. I just have to enter the SQL. If I want to monitor something, I just have to press the monitor. So anything you want to search, you can just go ahead on this tab and you can search that service. What I will also like to tell you is I will also show you the virtual machine, how it looks and what all option it shows. So at present, I have 2 virtual machines which are running on over here, and it shows me the status of that as well. I will just quickly open one of the machines over here. So when I open one of the machines which is already running, this is kind of the view I get, wherein it gives me all the details of the virtual machine. What is the size of the machine? What is the operating system? What is the public IP address for it? And at the same time, I can see the more details about it if I go down. Okay. And there is a small dashboard wherein I can straightforward go ahead and monitor that as well. So this is all right on your click available. You don't have to search anywhere. You don't want to configure anything. It is available right there itself. Okay, and you can change the tenure as well for last how many hours or days you want to look the performance at. I will also cover a few other important parts as well. Coming over here is the disk part. Now, this is my OS disk which is running on. I can add additional data disk as well. So data disk is nothing but my D drive or E drive that I want to use here. I just have to create and attach this. Whatever LUN type I need, I can configure it here. What else I can do is, suppose I have an earlier machine which was configured and had a data disk. I can remove that data disk from that earlier machine and I can attach to this disk as well, this virtual machine as well. So that is also possible for you. Here you have an activity log also. So it shows me what all things have been done with the virtual machine as of now. If you want a detailed diagnostic settings, you can go there as well, wherein you will get an OS level diagnostic as well. So every event and logs will be captured and will be visible to you. You also have a separate logs for your OS as well as the VM as well. If I go next, this is one of the important factor which you would like to see. Now, cloud is all about the scalability part. So now if suppose I have selected my machine size is G2S V3, which is nothing but 2 core, 8 GB of RAM. Now if I have to change this, so tomorrow my requirement changes, for some reason I have to go down. I just need 2 core 4 GB. I can just click on this and I can resize. Immediately that machine will be changed from 2 core 8 GB to 2 core 4 GB now. And it happens on the fly. Only thing is that the machine will need a reboot that hardly takes around 2 to 3 minutes for the VM to come up again. Similarly, you have other options also for availability and scaling, which Prajot was letting you know about the availability set, wherein you have fault domain and update domain, which makes sure that both your application VM are in separate racks. This is another important feature of automatic shutdown. Suppose all your students or your other faculty members are working onto something and you want to make sure that every day around 7 p.m. the machine should shut down, so that you can save the cost as well. So we understand that your working time would be 9 to 6 and you don't want the VM to be running after that, and you want to save the cost over there. So you can just set that schedule and every day it will make sure that at 7 o'clock it will shut down the machine. In case you need a notification before shutting down, then you can provide the email address also and it will send you an email before shutting down the machine. Same way, I have an option to set up my backup also. It is that simple. Just go ahead, you click on backup and you can configure the backup as you need. I have different policies available. For this, I am taking a daily policy, which is a default one, but you can configure as per your need. You have frequency of daily, weekly, whatever you want, and the timing that you need to configure it for. Plus, you also have an option to make sure that will be a retention period. For how long you want that retention to be there, the data should be there, available for you as a backup. So you can set all this over here. And this backup and disaster recovery are two of the important things when you have a critical application running. And Azure has an inbuilt service for it, which is Azure Site Recovery. So you don't have to do anything else from here. You just have to go on this link. You just click on disaster recovery and it helps you to identify the data center where you want to replicate. So in the case, in a scenario where my data center goes down, suppose my Central India goes down, I will have the VM running up from Southeast Asia. The users won't be able to recognize that there was a disaster recovery, but on the back end, the another instance will come up and it will make sure that everything is working fine for you. So that is also configurable in just a click from here itself. It will start replicating the machine for you. Last thing I would like to cover over here in this one is that the alerts part and the metrics part. So you have a metrics also over here. Suppose I want to look at what is my disk read bytes. I can click on that and I will immediately find out what is my disk read bytes over here. I had the same option in the monitoring part in the overview as well, and I have the same part to go drill down from here as well. So I have multiple options to configure here. I can also set an alert. Suppose I want to make sure that if this machine goes beyond the 90% of usage, I can set an alert over here, which will send me an email the moment this machine uses 90% of CPU or 90% of RAM, however I configure it. So I can completely monitor it with just a simple click. Just to take you one way ahead, just wanted to show you something on the subscription part as well. Since Prajot covered what is subscription for you, we'll just give you an overview of subscription. So you can look at this as subscription, then comes your resource groups, and then comes your resources. So now resources is nothing but your virtual machine, SQL database, any instance that you create. On top of it is resource group. So any resource group you can consider as a folder or a logical container for you. Any resource that you create is created under a resource group. Now, how this helps you is that Now tomorrow, suppose I want to create all these resources that I have created under a separate or under a single resource group. If I just create a resource group or delete a resource group, everything inside that will be deleted for me. Plus, moreover, I can have separate resource groups for my different departments as well, or my separate projects as well, so that I have all the resources bifurcated for me. On top of it, which is mandatory to run, is a subscription. And without subscription, you cannot have anything running on this. So the flow goes over here is like subscription is required for all the billing usage that you will incur for this resource groups. So resource group is completely free. Whatever you create over here will be the charge for you. If I go back to here and I have to show you the subscriptions, I have a subscriptions created over here, and the moment I go over there, it shows me the cost for me. And this is very important factor for me to manage my overall billing. So I see that this is my cost, which is 98% of my cost is going here, and this is my another cost which is incurred. Now further, if I want to drill down, I have many levers to go ahead and drill down further that where is my actual cost going on. As a part of it, what I have done is I have set up a budget as well. This may take up 1 or 2 minutes to come up. Okay, so it has come up. So here, if you see, it shows me that my actual cost is incurring around this much. And it also shows me the services as well, which are incurring this. So my storage cost is alone around 156 INR, and Azure Lab Service is incurring around 3 rupees, plus the location and the resource groups by segregation as well. So this helps me to monitor my overall budget, my overall cost alerts that I have. One more thing I have done is I have set up a budget for me. So I want to track my usage. So what I have done is I have kept a budget of around 100 rupees every month. Now what happens is the moment my charges reaches to 95 rupees, immediately an email is triggered to me stating that your cost has reached 95 rupees now. You may want to look at it. You may want to delete something. You may want to modify something to make sure that your cost is below 100. So you can configure everything over here, and you can make sure that your cost is under the usage part. Okay, and few things on the top which I would like to show you is that one is you can also do the scripting part from here. So you have PowerShell, you have Bash. You can write here the scripts, and you can configure everything through scripts as well. Then I will come on to directory and subscriptions afterwards. Then you have notifications. So whatever notifications, suppose you create a resource, you delete a resource, or you configure something, you will get a notification over here. For now, it is showing me a notification that every day it shows me a notification that you have this much money left in your subscription. Just for an alert to me. Then you have settings over here wherein you can change the language as per your region. Moreover, you can set what should be a default view. You can change the theme as well. So if I click on this, this will change my overall theme. I can do the dark mode also. I can do the light mode as well. I can change the colors as well. I can change the look and feel as well. And this dashboard is very much configurable. I can customize the dashboard as I want. So if I want to put here the monitoring thing for my dashboard, I can do that as well. So whenever I will open my Azure, I will see the monitoring phase, how much utilization my machines are actually doing. And moreover, here you have default directories and the subscriptions attached to it. Now, suppose like Prajot was telling, you have different subscriptions. You can be part of different subscriptions also. So you can go here and you can change the subscription as well, or you can change your directory as well. Directory is nothing but your Azure AD, where you're a part of. Suppose I am a part of 2 universities. I can be part of both the one, and I can go here and switch whenever I want to go to the specific university. Now coming on to a specific service which we have been working very long with the feedback of universities, and that is nothing but your Azure Lab Service. And I would like to take you through that. Now, Azure Lab Service, think of this as your computer labs on cloud. You have physical labs on-premise in your colleges, sorry, wherein you will have suppose 10 machines Now just think from this perspective that I have electrical engineering students and computer science students. Now I only have 10 machines for my practical labs. Now at a time, only one subject people can access that. So computer science students have an access at 9 to 10, and then my electrical engineering student will come from 10 to 11. And at a time, only 10 people can access that. But with this, what I can do is I can create multiple labs in just a simple click and provide it to the students. Now, student just need a machine with the browser and an RDP connection wherein they can access the machines. The complete infrastructure is managed by the Microsoft. So you don't have to worry about the infrastructure maintenance, the AMC, or the hardware is going down, anything like that. You just have to manage your template that you need to provide to the students. So when I say template, is that the environment that you want to give the students to complete their homework or projects, whatever it has. So this is where I create the labs, and I will show you how it looks. I just have to go at labs.azure.com. If I go to labs.azure.com, this is my professor view, or this can be my IT administrator view, wherein I go and set up an labs for my students. So what I have done here is I have three kind of labs. I have computer science, physics, and data science lab for my students. What I have done is I have set up the quota per user. So I will be teaching today something for 1 hour to my students, and I want to give them a homework that they have to complete something for a practicals, which will require them 5 hours of usage. So I've given it that flexibility to them that you have 5 hours of lab access. You can do it anytime as per your preference. He can work on the weekends, he can work on late night, whenever he has the right time, he can just log into the lab and he can use the machine. Now, if I go inside a lab instance, this is what my view is. Even before that, I would like to show you how to just quickly create a lab. If I click on this is how I set up a new lab. Now, tomorrow, suppose I have to set up a lab environment for, suppose for a maths class. Okay, just taking an example. So I will just click, type the name of the class that I want to put it here. I can select from a number of templates that are already available for me. I have Java, I have C++, I have Python templates already available. You can click on this and you will get a lot of templates which are already configured. You just have to select that. Or in case you require, you need to customize template that you already have, you can bring that also. And we can use that template to create the machines. Just wanted to show you one more thing. When I select this one of any machine, suppose I take a data science lab. Now, if you see here the highlights, this all softwares are automatically installed into it. Just to make sure that your platform is ready for data science, and only thing student has to go is he has to access that and start using it. So all these platforms will be already pre-configured into it, so that you don't have to install individual software for it. Now, if I take Windows 10 for now, and this is the lab size that I want to do, I can take whatever machine size it is required. I have multiple VMs to select from here, and the cost is also mentioned from here. So if you can see, the cost is very low over here. It would be around 13 rupees, 13 INR rupees per hour per machine, and the region where I want to spin this machine. If I go and next, I just have to set up whatever suppose username I need. I set up here Rashmi. I'll say Rashmi 1. Now next, what I can do is I have to set up the number of hours I want to give this to students. Suppose I want to give it for only 1 hour. I can set this at 1 hour, and this is changeable after creating the lab also. This complete page is changeable. And over here, if you see, this is a mechanism for me to control my cost. Now, I also want to make sure that when I have given a student a particular lab instance, he is not misusing it, or he's not he has not left it powered on. So I just want to make sure that the machine is powered off when it is not in use, so that I can save my cost over there. So these are some levers that are available. Suppose you have scheduled a lab for your student, and the student doesn't log in for around 15 minutes. So the machine is started, see the last one, the machine is started, but the student has not logged in for 15 minutes. So this will make sure that after 15 minutes, the machine is automatically shut down so that it doesn't get misused. Another thing is suppose the lab session is for 1 hour and students logs off in just 10 minutes. The machine will automatically, after 15 minutes of that, will turn it off. And this is very much customizable. Okay, and I can say just finish. Immediately my lab will be created over here. I will just show you how the lab looks for your professors and IT administrators. Now, when I go to my lab, first thing I see is the cost. Now, I have set 5 hours of quota usage. Now, I can see if I have a 5.5 hours of total usage, what will be my cost for this lab? Since I have only one user, that is the reason it is showing me for only one user, that 5 hours into 0.20 cents per hour. So I can see my cost over here. From the dashboard itself, I can see the templates that I have provisioned over here, the virtual machines, how many virtual machines are running and how many have been assigned to the students, how many users are there, how many students are there in this lab, and I can also schedule it. So we'll go one by one onto this also. I can schedule it. Suppose I need to schedule it for Tuesday for 1 hour. I can schedule the lab instance as well. The moment I go into template, it just basically shows me that this is your template. If tomorrow I think I need to do some changes to this template, I can just forward on, log into this template. I just make some changes, come back. Automatically, all the lab instances will have the same template changes that I have done over here. It is that simple. Secondly, I go to virtual machine pool. Suppose for some reason you had planned a lab environment for Monday, but then all of a sudden you have to do something on Friday. You can go ahead and start the machines also by yourself. You can see here the usage as well. So I see here that the student was given the lab usage of 5 hours, which I know, but he has already used for 0.5 hours as of now. So I can track the usage as well, how much time the student has already worked on this particular machine. Then I come to users. Now this is very important factor from where, how will I import my users onto this? Because this at times becomes tedious job when you have a lot of students to enroll onto this. Now it is very much simple over here. What I can do is I can add users by their email ID address, or I can upload a CSV file wherein it will have all the names and the email ID of the students. So automatically that student's name will be populated over here. One more thing is possible is that I can, after putting all the email addresses, I can invite all the students in one just click. Every student will get an email from the Azure Lab service wherein they will be invited for this lab. They just have to click on that link and register themselves. That's it. They will have the access to this lab now. Now tomorrow, suppose you're doing some kind of event or you're doing some kind of hackathon wherein you don't have the student email addresses with you. It will be an open forum wherein everybody can contribute and participate into that. There also what you can do is you can just click on this and you can share the registration link with your participants. And what your participants will happen is they can go there, they can put in their email address and their name will be automatically populated over here. So you can do that as well. You can host your events and everything as well. And suppose tomorrow, once you have done this registration, you got the students over here. And tomorrow you want to see how many students had come or how many professors had contributed to it. You can just quickly go and export this CSV file and you will get all these names populated over there. Now you can also set up or adjust the quota for individual users also. Although my complete lab service has a 5 hours of quota, but for specific student, if I want to give it for 1 hour, I can do it from here also. If I want to send him an invite, I can do it for individual user as well. Now this is important factor wherein I want to schedule a class for suppose Friday 10 to 11 and I can do that. I just have to go and select the time when I want to schedule this, and you just click on any notes that you want to provide to students, and you can just click on save. This will be saved for you, and automatically at 3:30 the machines will start up, and automatically at 5:30 the machines will turn off. So you have a controlled way of managing your lab. So students will have an access for 2 hours, nothing more than this. And suppose any one of the students or any 3 students are absent for that event, you can control that by putting the automation of shutting down the machine. I also have an option whether I want to repeat this. So I want to schedule this for every week, Thursday. I can do that, or else I will just close this. So it will be just for this today and not for the next week. Last part is the setting parts, which we saw earlier. You can ultimately anytime go and control this part just to make sure you don't incur any extra cost. So this is very much configurable anytime after creating the lab also. This is your overall dashboard. Now, if I have to go back, I will also show you how the student looks. So once the student logs in, if I log in as a student, so as a student, I have access to only one lab, and it will show me that only one lab is available. So as a student, I have access to computer science. So for me, I will not see any other labs. I will only see computer labs, and it shows me that I have a quota of 5 hours, and I have used 0.5 already out of it. Now, when I have to start working, as per my convenience, I can start working onto this. I will start the machine. I just have to start the machine. I will get the RDP details over here. I just copy that, and I will be able to log it to that machine immediately. And I can complete my overall project. And whenever I'm done, suppose I have a time of only 1 hour as of now, I will work for 1 hour. I will shut down this machine, and I will do my homework later on also. So I have that flexibility as a student. Moreover, as a faculty member, now you have the flexibility that your students can perform from anywhere. You don't have to wait for the labs to get free. You don't have to ask your lab administrator that whether you can schedule your student's lab at this particular time. Every student will get their own machine to work on. So they have the freedom to use the machine as per their need they want. Moreover, one top of additional benefit that you have is, just think from this perspective that you're using Microsoft Teams for virtual classroom for your students. Now this lab service gets integrated with your Teams as well. So as a student or as a faculty, if I go to the lab service, if I go to the Microsoft Teams, I am getting a virtual classroom where you're taking a theory class, plus I will get the Azure lab service also. So there will be one more tab apart from assignments, channel and everything. One more tab wherein I can go and log into my machine, and I can access everything over there. So it is that much beneficial for you. And as a faculty and as a student both, I can how to say it, I can access everything from the Microsoft Teams itself. I don't have to come to labs.azure.com. Everything can be managed from the single Microsoft Teams itself. So it is that much powerful for you. Now with that, any questions you have, please feel free to ask, or I will just hand over to Arun for the last section. Okay. Raja, will request you to please make Arun as a presenter.
Yes, thank you, Rashmi. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Very good session, very good session. Yes, Arun, you can take it over now. Arun? Arun, are you there?
Hey Raja, am I audible?
Yes, now it is fine. Go ahead, please.
Sorry. I think there was some network issues at my end. So let me share my screen and
Yeah. Yes, your screen is visible. You can.
Yeah, thank you. So as of now, we have given you the demonstration of how the Azure portal works, and I will cover the commercial part of it. That how you can define the costing for you, and you can find check the resources, what at what cost is available, and in what area the resources are available, and all these informations are available on a public platform. And the link of the public platform is the Azure calculator. You can go simply search in any of the search engine Azure calculator, and you can find this particular link over there. And this calculator is very easy to use. The kind of resources which are available on the portal or Azure data center are there, and you can just check, and you can just click on those resources, and you can find out that what kind of costing of those resources if you want to use it. So to start with, I'll try to find out the cost of a virtual machine. So I just need to click on a virtual machine, and it will give me just a second, I think. Yeah. So once just it will create me a view for that virtual machine. This is the view which you will, if you want to select it by yourself, you can go and do it. So what you need to do for while selecting the virtual machine is that first you need to create select a region of that particular data center area. As we already mentioned that we have 3 data centers in India. We have Central India, West India, and South India. For today's discussion purpose, let me take Central India as a data center. Then the second option is the operating system. We have the option of multiple operating system like Linux and Windows. If you want to use a Linux operating system, you can do it. Under Linux, we have multiple options, and you can choose any of the option and go ahead. But the third thing is the kind of instances you have on this particular portal. We have more than 350 instances on our portal, and it will start from A series and up to M series. I'll go one by one on the series, the kind of nomenclature we have given to these instances. A series is the very basic kind of series where you want to run any kind of test platform or any development platform, or you want the resources which very low kind of performance, you can go ahead with the A series of the machines, and you can work it out. The second option is the B series machines. B series machines are the generally used for a bus stable kind of model, where if you want to work on an environment where you are looking certain kind of spikes in certain time frame, you can select for the virtual machine. For the ideal purpose, for the enterprise kind of workload, or for the standard environment, we generally propose the D series machine to our customer. D series are the machines where you can run any kind of workload where the machines are the applications are processors incentive, like taking more processing power and less memory power. If the applications are taking the more memory power, there are other options like F series, where the the combination of the virtual cores versus the memories are available. You can go and do it. We also have the HPC platform, HPC instances on this particular portal. You can check the S series, where the 16 core machine is coming up with 112 GB of kind of RAM, and we also have the NVIDIA card HPC series, where you have 8 core 56 GB 4 core. So these are the options which are available on the portal, and you can select any of the option. For today's discussion purpose, let me go ahead with a small machine, which is 2 virtual core 8 GB machine. Let me show the values in INR. We have the option to showcase the commercials for your budgeting purpose in INR. So I'm in multiple currencies. For discussion purpose, I'm putting INR value over here. So once we select all these things, the next option is the number of virtual machine. If you want to go for more than one virtual machine, you can just increase the numbers over here and calculate the commercials value for you. The other option is the number of hours of the utilization. So we have three models on this. One is the pay as you grow model, where you can actually select the number of hours for your virtual machine, and Microsoft can only charge you for the number of hours you have utilized that particular machine. So, for example, we generally calculate 730 hours in a month. So this machine, which is there, is 730 hours, is around 5,000 rupees. If I want to reduce the number of hours basis on my utilization, I can just go and reduce the number of hours, and actually it will give me the value of the number of the kind of commercials I will be kind of incurring from this. The second option is the 1 year reserve instance, where if you want to have a load which is a continuous load, or a kind of website load, or a load where users are frequently coming, you can opt for a reserve instance, where Microsoft is giving you a flat discount. It is 42 in this particular machine. It varies on different kind of machines, so it is not 42 flat, but in each of the machines you can just go and just select the machine and find out what kind of discounting Microsoft is providing on 1 year reserve instance versus 3 years reserve instance. Microsoft is also giving you the flexibility to, if you have chosen for a 1 year reserve instance, you can also upgrade the reserve instance if you see that the currently opt reserve instance capacity is overutilizing. You can also go for a higher reserve instance during the course of the contract. So that kind of flexibility Microsoft is providing you. Then this, I think we are overshooting our time and we don't have any time for the questions. Raja, just let me know when to stop. Otherwise, the second option is the attached disk along with this particular machine. So we have the option of hard SDD and SSD, and these kind of. So, for example, if I take SSD storage along with it, so there are multiple options which start from 4 GB and up to 32 TB, and you just need to select the number of disks, and it will give you the costing of that particular machine, the per month costing of that particular storage device. The other option is, this is the virtual machine. Then the storage account. Similarly, we have multiple options like storage. You can configure the storage account, where you can select the different kind of storage for your compute requirement. You have the database machines, where we are providing you the platform as a service. We have Azure SQL database, Azure Cosmos DBs, and other database as a service, where you just need to worry about the application which you want to host on that particular database. Rest everything, including the database level under the PaaS services, will be managing those things for you. Similarly, we have networking services. You can create your virtual network. You can create a load balancer. You can create the application firewall. Similarly, and multiple other things are available. I think yesterday there was a session around the AI and machine learning. You can also check the costing of all those services under the Azure Cognitive Search or Azure Bot services. Just click on this particular thing. It will give you a view. Just select the region of that particular thing. For example, again, the Central India, there are multiple tiers, and just go to the tiers and find out the costing of that particular service. This way you can easily calculate the kind of commercials you will be incurring if you use any service on the Azure portal. And this is all a public facing portal. You can go and check at any point of time. So, any questions? Yes. Hello. Raja? Hello, Raja, are you there? I don't think so. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can just ask on the chat, and I think Prajot and Rasmita are already responding few of the questions. If any questions on the calculator part, just let us know so that we can answer those things. Hello. So, in the meantime, since Raja is not there, so in the meantime, we also have a service called Converge Platform where there are few things which we are providing to the education institutes. The you will have the HPC environment. I've shown you the HPC instances on the calculator. You can have those HPC instances on as a part of that program. You will the benefit of having the GitHub enterprise as well as GitHub campus for your colleges, and there will be I think Prajot has already mentioned on the chat in the above that we'll be providing $100 to each of the students to use the Azure environment. You just need to log in with your student ID, and while you select the student ID, it will give you $100 credit on your Azure account, and you can utilize the resources. You can do any kind of um, work or any kind of resource things. You can do it by yourself. uh, there is a link which is there is a mail ID which Jyot has already shared on this chat window. Let me repaste that mail ID so that if you have any questions related to the program, you can always contact us, and will provide you all the details around the program. And this is very helpful for wherever we have positioned this program in the education space. It is very helpful for the student because GitHub is something which gives you a place uh, to have the repository of all the codes, and this is really helpful for the technical education. Raja,
Yes, Mr. Arun, thanks a lot.
Raja, if you can unmute the participant, and if they have any questions, they can ask. We can extend for 5 more minutes.
Yes, I enabled everyone.
So, if you have any questions on the 3 things which we have showcased you in last 1.5 hours, you can ask.
It's really wonderful session, Arun. Excellent, Arun and Prajot and
Rasmeet.
Yes, Rasmeet. Excellent session.
Thank you, sir.
I hope anybody have any questions, you can post it in chat box, or you can unmute yourself and speak.
Arun, there is a question that is asked regarding your contact detail. Yeah.
I've pasted my mobile number on this chat. In fact, I'll also request Prajot and Rasmeet to provide their mobile number so that if somebody wants to reach out to us, you can directly contact us. although we all three part of the education team, but since we does not know that which all institutes are there, there might be the extended team where who are responsible for your education institute will connect you with those guys. Prajot,
Fine.
and provide your mobile number as well.
Yes.
Any questions? Anybody?
If anybody will have questions, I will post it to you, Arun. Now it is a time for break. And anybody, I don't think so. Nobody has question. If they have, let them write to me. I will forward to you. Otherwise, let them directly write to you both.
Definitely, Raja. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Arun. Thanks, Arun and Prajot and Rashmi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
I hope just one last question, Raja. I hope all the faculties are enjoying the sessions which Microsoft is providing since yesterday. I'm
personally very happy, and I hope everybody might have enjoyed this session. Really, I'm very happy that I didn't expect this much resource person you might have arranged. And thanks a lot, Prajot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Raja.
Okay, thanks a lot. And you can leave Arun and Prajot. Otherwise, that video recording I am going to start now for this session.